Courage, Love and Cornflakes by Jackie Laing of Q 2439. Narrated by Janine Penfold. Oh, for goodness sake! I have reminded you 3 times. Why don't you ever listen to me? It dawned on me that this had become a familiar refrain. A nagging thought was in the back of my head. What if something was wrong? Was my husband not listening? Or was there something more sinister going on? I had been noticing for over a year now that he was very forgetful. I was getting increasingly frustrated and angry as I repeated myself time and again. A trip to the doctor and then a specialist, some simple tests, and we had a diagnosis. My husband had Alzheimer's. After the initial shock, I found that knowing what the problem was helped. I understood that he really couldn't help it. I became much more patient and able to cope. It didn't make life any easier. As the illness progressed, more symptoms came to light. I spent a lot of time hunting for items that had been misplaced around the home. There was no logic to any of it. I just had to keep looking. New glasses had to be bought as he lost his old ones. His phone charger was never where he thought he had left it. It was always my fault, and he would ask me where I had put his things. I always had a shopping list on the kitchen bench so that as soon as we ran out of an item, I would remember it. Unfortunately, my husband would never think to add something to the list, and by the time we went shopping, he couldn't remember what he needed. One time I was looking for cornflakes. I was amazed at the price on that day. My husband heard and said, "That's it. We won't buy them." I said, "Hang on. It means you won't have cornflakes for your breakfast. You will have to eat Weet-Bix." "I don't care. I'm not paying that." Every morning at breakfast time, "Where are my cornflakes? We don't have any cornflakes." No use trying to explain. The memory had gone. I went to the shops and bought the cornflakes. A friend told me a story of a lady whose husband had Alzheimer's. She was making a cup of tea and asked him to get the milk out of the fridge, which he did. When she asked him to put it back after she used it, he had no idea what to do. That is dementia. It can come in and out and strike when you are least expecting it. I had to tell our friends what was happening, as a couple of times they gave my husband a message assuming he would pass it on to me. As soon as they told him, he forgot. They assumed we had ignored them, so an explanation was necessary. We had a lovely Christmas that year with some of the family. We were away for a week. When his son rang to ask how his Christmas had been, he handed the phone to me as he couldn't remember. I felt very sad, as he loved talking to his son. We were heading into the long goodbye. The person most important to you after 45 years of marriage is no longer there. No point in telling him something as he won't remember. He gets days mixed up, and even with a Webster pack for his pills, he still asks me what day it is. Funnily enough, his driving is not affected. As long as he knows where he is going, I can't fault it. He still even parks better than me. His sense of humour still kicks in now and again, and he still makes me laugh. The other day I was at the front door and called to our dog. "Do you want a wee-wee?" My husband shouted, "Come inside. People will think you are talking to me." As I said, this was all a learning experience, I assumed. Silly me that help would be on hand, as it is for anyone who is physically handicapped. Don is not. He can still get his breakfast and lunch and mow our postage stamp of a lawn as long as I remind him. Therefore, all the questions asked on the myriad of forms I have filled in assume help isn't needed, as he is physically fit. I am very lucky, as I have good friends who listen to me moan and understand what is happening. Without them, I would be lost. It is very lonely when suddenly your best friend and mentor, one you have been married to for over 40 years, the person you discussed everything with, is no longer there. All decisions have to be made alone. Unless you have lived with someone with this illness, you can't understand the isolation you feel. Another life lesson. And what gets you through the tough times? Courage, love, and cornflakes. The end.